Greetings sailors and welcome to a very special replay, because this replay represents a thing I've never managed to do before in World of Warships, despite having played almost 4,000 games. Now there's a couple of things about this replay that I should note right at the start. First off, I am in a completely stock Gadjah Mada here. Second off, I'm in a division with Clyde the Monkey, who is a fellow streamer, I think mainly. I'm not sure if he does any YouTube stuff, but you can go and check out his Twitch page. He streams warships on a very regular basis, and he's also divisioned up with, well, we're also divisioned up with a disabled gamer Bolt, who is also in the Lude clan, which is, I think, the clan that Earl Grey's also in, or am I completely misremembering? I don't know. Anyway, so we're in a tier 8 game, we're in our tier 7 ships, and we've decided to come to the A cap. And I actually had angled in towards Clyde on the premise of maybe I could come and give him some smoke, but he didn't actually want some smoke. So, you know, in retrospect, it would have been better to take a slightly wider approach and spot more stuff. And as it is, because I was relatively close in, I didn't really spot anything until it was a little bit too late, and I've now lost most of my health. This, by the way, this is how you get rid of that annoying bug. You have to click to go into the, not quite the free cam view, because the free cam view is like literally flying around, but you know, you click and you're in the free cam view, except it's centered on the ship and I don't really have a good name for it. Then you have to scroll in, then you have to scroll out, and then you have to left click to go back to the replay view. And you'll have to do that multiple times per replay. Yeah, it's quite annoying. So that particular little bug was not fixed with the 070 patch. So I've lost a huge chunk of health, which is not good, and we are looking increasingly screwed because we've committed to this side and taken the gamble that we wouldn't have lots of enemy ships to deal with, except we have lots of enemy ships to deal with, so this is not so good. So that's the enemy Bismarck, there's a Warspite, there's a Gadjah now, there's one of the enemy destroyers, there's a Hipper, and all in all, yeah, this is not a good time. This was a poor plan as it turned out, but we didn't know up until the point where it was already too late. So there goes disabled gamer Bolt in the Duke of York. Unfortunately, he is going to place last on the team list just because he died so early and got focused so heavily by the enemy team that's come here. Because there's nearly half the enemy team, and the other half of the enemy team is more over towards the C cap. So, yeah, that was not a good start. That was not a good start at all. We've lost a decent player already, and we're going to lose Clyde, because there's no way he can realistically make a getaway here. So there we go, he gets taken out by the Warspite, and that enemy Warspite, I think, is one of their better players. He was the one, I think, that was trying to blind fire me in the smoke, and it won't be the last time he does that either. So now I am kind of in an awkward position. It's not a terrible position to be in for a destroyer, because, you know, these ships are all wanting to advance forward and they know I'm here, but this does give me potentially some opportunities for torpedo drops. Now, one of the things I liked about the Fushan is that although the the damage output potential of your torps isn't great, just because you don't have a huge number of torps that you can put out, and you know, it's obviously a bit limited in range, but it's still good enough, and they're the deep water torps, so they only work against non-destroyer targets, but they do have a quick reload. This, however, you know, you get a much bigger spread of torpedoes to put out, you get a better range with those torpedoes, but you have to wait much longer for the reload. So I'm basically stuck in a position where I can't really smoke up and fire at things, because there's not going to be anyone spotting for me. I mean, the Nuremberg isn't going to last too much longer. And hello, Bismarck. Yes, apparently you didn't have your Hydro going, or else it was on cooldown. And so I am just reliant on dropping torps in their path. So I'm relegated to being a torpedo destroyer for the time being. And the Gadjah Mada isn't completely terrible at that, but where it really does shine is as being a gunboat, because it has 2 of its 3 turrets being completely fully traversable, which makes it incredibly comfortable to play. So this replay, I've got lots of these sped up sections. Normally I would cut out chunks And I tend to do that more than speed up sections, but I've done the opposite a lot more this time round, so I don't know how that's going to work in terms of the final product. I guess we'll see from the comments, but I wanted to leave in as much as possible just so you can get a sense of how the enemy team's moving around, how our team is moving around. So I get very briefly spotted. I have no idea if the catapult fighter saw my torpedoes. However, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, because they're not especially fast torps, but they're not especially slow either. And with the upgraded torps, I can't remember if you actually get better range. I think I've got the upgraded torps at this point. They do a little bit more damage, and I think they have a bit more speed, but I can't remember if they actually get more range. But either way, you know, even with the stock torps, they're still decent, basically. So, no, the answer is that they were not spotted. And all things being equal, now that the Gadjah has burned his damage control, I could just open fire and try and stick some burning damage on him for a bit. But I really daren't do that. I'm quite close to quite a decently sized clump of enemy ships. There's still a Fushun out there as well somewhere, and I'm below 50% health, so it really didn't seem like the sensible thing to do. I was basically just playing it cautiously. Now, the rest of our team has just been super awkward. We had about 5 ships pass through the decap at various points, and that's never a good sign on this map. You never want significant portions of your team going to the decap. I should note, by the way, this wasn't me. I wasn't streaming. I was playing with Clyde on his stream. I was just, you know, I just turned up, and then he made the offer of if I wanted to join, and I accepted. And it's almost easier to play better when you're not streaming, because you can just fully concentrate on playing more or less. Whereas when you are streaming, you're having to, you know, try and entertain and interact with the chat at the same time, and so it can actually make things a little bit harder. You know, you've got to concentrate on doing more things at once. So that was a purely defensive smoke I put out, and it might have been unnecessary, but I then decided, you know, as I put down this smoke, I might as well sit here and use it, because I'm now in a position where things are spotting for me. Got to be slightly wary about torpedoes, of course, but nothing's really close enough to spot me. Although if the Huanghe gets too close, it does have Hydra, but it's got to get pretty damn close before it can use it. It only gives it about an extra kilometre over the detection it would get from me just firing from the smoke anyway. So that, I'm pretty sure, was the War Spy that did quite a nice bit of blind firing there, in fact, and managed to shave off a bit more of my health, so I'm now even worse off than before. I've done the majority of the damage I'm going to do in this game, by the way. It doesn't get much better than this damage-wise, but still, this isn't terrible. So the Nagato's about to go out of firing range. I mean, if I'd stuck another fire on, it might have given me more damage, but of course my smoke is going, and so I decided to disengage and stick with the plan, the original plan, which was to head towards the A cap. I mean, using the smoke to fire from really was just a bit of opportunistic damage getting, and you know, I was hoping to obviously get some permafires going as well, but sadly that was not the case. So a little bit further on now, and we're down to the last couple of ships on our team. It's me, a Gadjah, not a Gadjah, it's a Bismarck and a Dunkirk, who are facing the full brunt of the enemy team, more or less, barring the enemy Gadjah now. And so, you know, I felt it was a reasonably safe time to try and open fire, because I'm about to get out of range of this Hipper anyway, at which point I'm just going to be automatically unspotted. And I did get a fire on him, but he immediately extinguished it, so a bit more damage, but it wasn't really, you know, it's not going to kill the Hipper, so therefore it doesn't really matter that much. So into the A cap, we do still have the C and D caps. The enemy teams had B for a while, and they do have a healthy points lead, but that's mostly from killing our team, because you know, we've had quite a few caps for quite a while. But that's the thing: if you're losing teammates at a more rapid pace than the cap points are accumulating, or the victory points, then it doesn't really matter. So I've pulled into view just in time to see the end of the Bismarck, who, well, I didn't really get to see his fight, but they weren't a very good player. And we're actually going to have a special little interlude just to observe the progress of this Bismarck. So, take note, the Bismarck actually spawned next to us. And, well, let's just observe the progress of their little journey. So here's a little bit later on, and they've gone all the way along the, is it the 3 line or the C line? I can't remember, but yes. Bear in mind, they spawned next to us, and they've now driven to the opposite side of the map. And now they're turning down towards D. And a little later on, well, here they are, driving through D, and just not really paying any attention to what the enemy team's doing. This is one of our 2 top-tier battleships. We only had 2 of them, and the Amagi has already died. But I'm sure they have some kind of grand plan. Sure. So, now, coming round the south of the islands between C and D, and finally getting into the engagement range with the enemy team at the point where everybody else has basically died. And I didn't get to see it. I mean, obviously Clyde and Disable Gamer Bolt did, because they were dead at that point. Apparently it was quite special watching this Bismarck fight. They did get 1 kill, so it's not like they didn't do something, but yeah, it took them fully 15 minutes to basically do a lap halfway around the map. They started next to us and ended up in the C cap, and they went the long way round. So, yeah. Don't be that battleship driver who did almost nothing for 15 minutes and then, you know, finally got into the fight. So, I've capped B. And, well, I had designs on maybe somehow killing the Warspite because, well, we've drawn closer in points, but we need something extra. We need something to push us over the top because we're down to the last 3 minutes. Now, I was waiting until the catapult plane had passed before I put out the drop because that obviously gives me a better chance of hitting the Hipper, taking him unawares. The deep water torps have generally got quite low detection ranges, and of course the Hipper might have his hydro active, but either through luck or through skill, well, he maneuvers wide to dodge the first lot and sails smack bang into the second lot. So I did not get to take a shot at the low health Warspite, but I did manage to take out something all the same, and that's put us ahead. And we now have 3 cap circles. It took them awfully long, an awfully long time to cap the C cap once they'd taken out the Bismarck, all things considered. And they're only just now starting to cap D. But we've still got the 2 cap points, and now quite a healthy lead. So, yeah. We were joking at some points. Well, I thought they were Clyde and Lude were joking about, oh, Solo Warrior, and the chat, of course, was all in on it. And then, well, it came true, because here we are, because we managed to get ahead of them on points because we had the cap points for longer than they did, because they took so long to kill that Bismarck, and that Bismarck was a bad player. Make no mistake about it, but because they took so long to kill that one ship. Because they steamed round into that fight basically full health because they'd done nothing for, the 14 minutes previous to that. That gave me the time to cap, and then getting that Hipper was obviously completely crucial. And at that point it was just inevitable, just based on the ticking victory points. It was just mathematically impossible to lose at that point unless I died. And they were a little concerned that I was going to run into the enemy destroyer, get out spotted, and then just die in a hail of gunfire, or maybe get detonated or something, just to, really add some RNG to the salty wound. But no, as it was, I was trying to spot the enemy team a little bit at the end there, but then I listened to their advice and angled away and just sped to the north and let nature take its course. So that's it. My very first solo warrior in almost 4,000 games, and is one of the, air quotes, boring ones, because I got it through just us having that victory point advantage. But most solo warriors will be that. getting a solo warrior through entirely killing, you know, the last 4 enemies when you're the only person left alive. I mean, it's possible. I'm sure there will be people out there that have gotten solo warriors that way, and that's certainly the more impressive way to get it, but it's also the harder way to get it. And I think realistically there's not, like, battleships and destroyers and probably carriers are the best classes to do that. I wouldn't think cruisers have that much of a chance overall, and even destroyers are going to be struggling. You're going to be relying on people playing badly, essentially. So yeah, that was not a bad outing for a stock ship, and I'm kind of liking this ship, and I'm kind of liking the line overall, but, you know, it does have its limitations, but it's also got some nice points as well, as I went over in a recent phj video. So, I'm going to take this last moment, the end of this video, to pimp my Patreon a little bit, because I currently have 2 spaces available in the $75 top supporter slot, because well, just through a combination of life circumstances happening, I've had 2 backers that have had to stop supporting me, and, you know, that's fair enough. I'm just some dude that makes videos on the internet, and sometimes you need the money for slightly more important things than that. But, you know, if you do happen to have the money and you don't need it for more important things at the moment, then yes, these 2 spaces are available as of making this video, so you can find the link to my Patreon down below. And even if you aren't that well off that you feel you could spend that much money just to play with me for an hour a week, you know, maybe you would consider giving me $1 or 2 regardless, because it all helps keep the channel going. The majority of my income does come from Patreon, especially since all of the demonetization stuff that's been going on with YouTube. Basically every video I have had, bar like 3, 4, 5 maybe, since the beginning of December, has been demonetized at some point. And quite often it's, you know, it's up for a couple of hours, then it gets demonetized, and then, you know, the next day it's remonetized, or it gets demonetized the day after I put it up, and it's just incredibly unpredictable, and they all eventually get remonetized, but by that point I've lost, you know, half the potential ad revenue from a video. So yeah, it really has come down to Patreon more than ever, and you know, there was the recent thing with Patreon, of course, but they did at least listen to their community, so we'll see what the future holds there. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.